January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month. I'm Kate Kelly with how the RISE Coalition is doing its part to educate the public on the subject.
Missouri lawmakers push for some police reform in Jefferson City.
We definitely believe that this is a good move towards equity.
But the proposed changes are already in place in Joplin. We'll hear from police about the department's ban on chokeholds.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and a Joplin nonprofit is doing its part to help spread awareness about the issue. This is KOAM News at 10. KOAM's Kate Kelly shares how the RISE Coalition is using social media to debunk myths.
Human trafficking is something that takes place across the country, and education plays a vital role in spotting the signs of a victim. That's why the RISE Coalition is debunking myths and offering stats on social media to help inform the public.
I think one of the things that really propelled our medical staff into wanting to be more responsive is understanding that 88% of all survivors of trafficking have at some point in time come in contact with someone in the healthcare field, and yet only 2% of all reports have come from the healthcare sector.
RISE is dedicated to helping people in exploitation situations. Local churches and community members have come together to donate items for go bags to help these victims, usually women. But trafficking often disguises itself.
I think one of the biggest myths is that people assume, okay, human trafficking involves someone going in, kidnapping someone, taking them somewhere, selling them for sex or labor or whatever that is. And that's absolutely a definition of human trafficking, but that is not every case. And that's certainly not the majority of cases that we see here in our community.
Officials say more often, human trafficking begins as a cybercrime where online predators target children or teens. Shade says conspiracy theories and myths distract from the real atrocities of trafficking.
So in the last year, we really found that there was a lot of false information being spread about human trafficking. And that's not just unfortunate, that actually really hurts our efforts and it really hurts victims.
With education and resources, this Joplin nurse believes we can make a difference in our community.
I've seen the desperation in a face turn to hope and then see a life completely transformed when a new way out is given. And that's the incredible ability that I've seen that even a single nurse in our community has.
In Joplin and Oronogo, Kate Kelly, KOAM News.
If you'd like to learn more about RISE or learn how you can help human trafficking victims, check out the link shared in this article on our website, koamnewsnow.com. A proposed ban on police chokeholds in Missouri is beginning to gain traction in the state legislature. Chokeholds have been used for decades but have fallen under greater scrutiny recently, most notably after a Minneapolis police officer pressed his knee against the neck of George Floyd last year until he stopped breathing. In 2017, the NAACP issued an advisory warning black travelers to be cautious in Missouri, in part citing decades of data compiled by the Attorney General's office showing black drivers are more likely to be pulled over by police than white motorists. Officials with the Joplin Police Department say they've been ahead of the curve on chokeholds.
When it comes to chokeholds, the Joplin Police Department, that's been a practice that hasn't been in our policy for the better part of 2 decades. The police department specifically has prohibited their use except in certain situations where an officer may face imminent serious physical injury or even death.
We also spoke with officials from Joplin for Justice who say that while a ban isn't a complete fix, it's a step in the right direction for police reform in the state. Checking in with Doug Heddy now for our first look at the weather. Hi, Doug.
Hey, Dal. It turned out to be a pretty good Monday for us today. It was a little bit on the chilly side after a cold start at 21. 41 for a high, average high is 44, so at least pretty close to where we should be for this time of the year. Clear skies, nothing going on here. Any clouds that we had earlier today, those are gone, so we're going to have clear skies for us tonight. And it really looks pretty good over the next 2 days until our next storm system starts to roll in, but that's not going to be until Thursday. So Tuesday looks good, Wednesday looks pretty good. Temperatures, yeah, they're cold again. We'll drop back into the mid-20s. But not as low as what we did see last night. Most of us are hovering right around the freezing mark right now. We'll drop back to about 27, 33 by 9, 47 by noon, then a high temp, quite a bit warmer up to 53 tomorrow afternoon. We do have some changes down the road. We're going to look at that here in just a bit.
All right, we'll catch you then. Thanks, Tom. A multi-million-dollar construction project in Joplin is officially underway. Construction for the new Jasper County Courts building started on Friday. The $35 million project will replace the current courts building that was built in 1975. The project was approved in April of 2019 when voters approved an extension to the existing quarter-cent sales tax. Courts administrator says there's been a lot happening in the background since then.
There's been a lot of back work done prior to a construction project. I mean, you have to design it, you have to make sure that it meets the needs of the people that are going to be using it and so forth. And now the public is finally seeing the fruits of that labor.
Construction is estimated to take 2 years. Now, during that time, drivers will have to find parking on the streets around the courts building and in downtown. But once construction is complete, the old building will be demolished to make room for an 80-stall parking lot. Joplin City Council held a work session today to discuss the futures of Memorial Hall, Ewart Pool, and the city's stormwater master plan. Consultants who had been examining Memorial Hall proposed a $25 million renovation plan based on public input. The council also received the final report on an examination of Ewart Pool.
You know, I've never been part of, this is my first go around with studies, and I was overwhelmed on how well they performed and made sure the community got their word heard. So I'm very, very happy with how it went.
Council also discussed proposals for the city's stormwater master plan. Still ahead, as COVID-19 vaccines continue rolling out nationwide, we're going to look at how Kansas and Missouri are performing in terms of distribution and hear from health experts who say it's not happening fast enough. And once you do get the vaccine, how much protection is it offering? The Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services is offering a free COVID-19 testing clinic. That's going to happen Friday, January 22nd at Access Family Care in Joplin. It's at 530 South Maiden Lane. Hours will be from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. and the testing is free for Missouri residents. You can register online at health.mo.gov/community-test. Kansas legislators are reviewing the state's distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, though U.S. government data shows the state's inoculation rate no longer lags behind most other states. Top Republicans in the GOP-controlled legislature have been unhappy with what they consider a rocky vaccination rollout. The state House and Senate health committees plan to have separate hearings tomorrow on vaccine distribution. A federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report at the end of December showed Kansas ranking last among states for its inoculation rate. A CDC report released today shows 25 states have a lower inoculation rate than Kansas. Last week, Missouri's governor said Missouri had distributed 105,000 COVID-19 vaccines, not including those that have been administered through the Federal Pharmacy Partnership Plan. Missouri ranks 19th in terms of vaccine distribution and is getting 2% of the available vaccine doses nationwide. Across the country, as of today, more than 35% of available vaccines have been distributed. That's up from just 30% on Friday and behind the federal government's initial plan to vaccinate 20 million people by the start of the new year. So far in the U.S., just over 9 million people have been vaccinated. According to former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb, there are 40 million vaccines still sitting on shelves. He's calling for health officials to ramp up vaccinations.
The feds say it's with the states say it's with the feds. It really doesn't matter to the patient.
In the U.S., states like California have turned to super stations like this one at San Diego's Petco Park to help reach its vaccination goal. Britain is turning race courses and stadiums into vaccination centers as it steps up its immunization program against COVID-19. Vaccinations are underway at 7 major hubs all across that country, including the famous Epsom Downs race course, where a new race against time is underway. Nationwide, they hope to vaccinate 2 million people per week in the UK. Around 30,000 people there have died from coronavirus in the last 30 days. London's hospitals are on the verge of being overwhelmed, and England's chief medical officer warns the next few weeks will be the worst of the pandemic. Pfizer says plenty more doses of the vaccine are coming. The pharmaceutical company has set a goal to release 2 billion doses by the end of the year. They had originally planned for 1.3 billion doses by year's end. So where is this new number coming from? Well, part of it has to do with a label update. The labels initially said each vial had 5 doses, but it was discovered there was actually enough for 6 doses per vial. The goal is also based on improvements to the process and expansion at some of the production facilities. More than 32 million doses have shipped around the world as of yesterday. It's important to note that anyone who receives a vaccination could still end up getting sick. Reporter Mandy Gaither explains.
COVID-19 vaccines are becoming available to more Americans.
I would strongly encourage that we move forward with giving states the opportunity to be more expansive in who they can give the vaccine to, particularly as more supplies become available.
Health officials continue to say being vaccinated is one of the best ways to protect yourself and others from getting sick, but no vaccine works 100% of the time. During trials, the current authorized vaccines were shown to be about 95% effective, which means some who were vaccinated became symptomatic. Here's why. It takes time to build immunity, and both authorized vaccines require 2 doses given several weeks apart to train the body's immune system. But people can be exposed to the coronavirus right before being vaccinated or right after, which doesn't give the body enough time to develop its defenses. The CDC says building immunity typically takes a few weeks. Moderna measured its 95% vaccine efficacy starting 14 days after the second dose, while Pfizer started 7 days after the second dose. But let's be clear, the current coronavirus vaccines cannot infect anyone with the virus. They don't contain the virus, but the CDC says vaccinated people should still use all the tools available to us. Wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from others, and wash your hands. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The technology used to make the new coronavirus vaccines is designed to be easily adapted if the virus mutates. It should take far less time to update the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines than it takes to make new flu vaccines. Doug Hetty is up next with his complete forecast. And later, Democratic lawmakers say they'll move to once again impeach the president if the vice president doesn't invoke the 25th Amendment. We're going to have the latest on that and the safety measures being put in place ahead of the president-elect's inauguration.
Well, it definitely turned out to be kind of a cold day for us today. Cold start across the region, but pretty nice finish. You can see the fog across the area and then breakout, see mostly sunny skies. Great time-lapse Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Of course, Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. Let's go ahead, zoom in. Currently downtown, sitting at 31, south winds 5 to 10. Humidity, it's creeping up there a bit, but it's not bad at about 79%. But most of us around the metro are hovering right around freezing or just below. 30 in Miami, 32 in Pitt, Webb City at 31, Seneca at 29, Carthage at 31 degrees, and this is consistent across the entire 4-state area. Most of us are hovering near that freezing mark. We got these southwesterly winds, which are increasing, and this is actually going to keep our temperatures up just a little bit for us tonight. And it's also not going to allow our temperatures, they're not going to fall as much tonight, but they're going to warm up even more for us during the daytime hours on Tuesday. Clear skies, nothing going on here. Any clouds we had earlier today, those are gone. So clear skies across the entire Central Plains. Next storm system is out across the Pacific Northwest, and this system will start to affect us by Thursday. Now, ahead of it, we have this weak little wave. You can see that little spin near El Paso, and then a nice little ridge. That's our weather Tuesday and Wednesday. Then that next storm system will affect us by Thursday and start to cool us down. But until then, I think we look okay. Even though it is going to be cold tonight, we drop back mid to upper 20s. South winds increase tomorrow, so a little bit on the windy side, but look at our temps. Most of us are going to go into lower 50s. We'll start at 27, 47 by noon, high temp of 53. As we head into tomorrow night, we cool back down near 30, still pretty much clear skies. And then Wednesday looks fantastic as well, as we warm near 60 for an afternoon high. Then that next storm system, it's going to drop in. This is going to be on Thursday. It doesn't have much in the way of moisture to work with, but it is a pretty strong cold front that's going to work in Thursday morning. We may get a few random showers, maybe a quick snow shower with it Thursday morning, and then it pushes right on by, and then we cool down a bit. And even on the backside, we may get some flurries by the time we head into Friday, because this is a big upper level low. As you can see here, it takes up 3/4 of the country. But the good news here is it passes right on out of here very quickly, and then we get into these kind of weak little systems. Weak system drops in Sunday, not a lot of moisture. Weak system drops in Tuesday, not a lot of moisture. And then a stronger storm system finally gets going by late next week, by next Thursday. So this week, we'll watch that Thursday system. We have a weak system, so we're going to start next Monday. And you can see the blue days. These are mainly cold days. The yellow days, pretty good days. So next week's going to be cold. We have a weak little system Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, but a bigger system on Thursday, the 21st. Then the following week, we have a chance for 2 storm systems around the 25th and 6th, and then again the 27th and 8th, and that's our shot to get a big winter storm. If we don't get it there, we'll get little storms all through February, but that's our best shot to get a bigger winter storm. Then you can see the first week of February, we warm back up before we start to cool back down just a bit. But the next 2 days look great. 53 tomorrow, near 60 on Wednesday. Cooling down Thursday and Friday with a few random snow showers, and then kind of chilly heading into the weekend.
Yeah, some blue days ahead, but looking forward to a couple of days in the 50s.
Yeah, it'll be well deserved.
You bet. Thanks, Doug. Still ahead on KOAM News at 10.
Democratic lawmakers are steamrolling ahead, adamant about removing President Trump from office.
It's rid of him. He's out of office.
I'm Skyler Henry on Capitol Hill on the timing and why House Democrats say they'll move to impeachment if the 25th Amendment isn't invoked.
House Democrats have unveiled an article of impeachment against President Trump over last week's storming of the U.S. Capitol. Leadership says it'll move forward with a vote this week unless the vice president invokes the 25th Amendment. A senior administration official tells CBS News that top White House aides do not think the vice president will do so. Skyler Henry reports from Capitol Hill.
I object. Republicans blocked the Democrats' resolution calling on Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office. The move sets up a full House vote Tuesday.
It gets rid of him. He's out of office.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says that if the vice president does not respond in 24 hours, Democrats will move forward with an article of impeachment accusing the president of inciting an insurrection. A House impeachment vote could come as soon as Wednesday, but if passed, the Senate may not begin a trial until after President-elect Joe Biden begins his term.
My feeling is if we impeach him this week, that it should be immediately transmitted to the Senate, and we should try the case as soon as possible.
Several Republicans have pushed back on impeachment talk, saying the move could be inflammatory. With the inauguration just 9 days away, President-elect Joe Biden says he's not worried about taking the oath of office publicly.
I'm not afraid of taking the oath outside, and we've been getting briefed.
Let's go! The chief of the National Guard says up to 15,000 troops could be deployed to the nation's capital between now and then. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is calling on the public to stay home.
This inaugural planning period has to be very different than all the others.
Tonight, President Trump approved the mayor's request for an emergency declaration ahead of the inauguration. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Ohio Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan tells CBS News 2 Capitol police officers have been suspended in connection with last week's assault on the Capitol, including one officer who allegedly posed for selfies with the rioters. During today's inauguration ceremony in Jeff City, Missouri, Governor Mike Parson condemned the assault on our nation's capital. The governor said he supports Americans' right to protest, but what happened on January 6th was not a protest.
But what I don't believe is I don't believe anybody, for any cause, has the right to commit crimes. Period. Doesn't matter what the occasion is or where it is. I spent a lifetime in law enforcement and law and order, making sure to preserve that, and will continue to do that.
The U.S. government is rolling out the third installment of its small business loan program today with new safeguards included. This comes after fraudsters botched the rollout last year. Instead of automatic approval, applications will be initially reviewed, which might slow the process, but officials say the $284 billion allotted will meet incoming demand and not run out. The IRS is sending some 8 million Americans Visa debit cards loaded with the latest federal stimulus payment. The tax agency said it changed the envelopes to make it more transparent that they include the debit cards loaded with $600. Last spring, some people threw out their prepaid debit cards because the envelopes were not clearly marked. Final check on the weather is next. Take time now to honor a local veteran, John Stanton. The Granby, Missouri native served in the U.S. Navy, and we are proud to salute John Stanton. He's tonight's four-state hero. One final check back with Doug Heddy for a look at the weather. Doug.
All right, Dow, it's going to be cold for us tonight, but clear skies will drop back to about 24 to 26 degrees, but at least quite a bit of sunshine tomorrow, and we are going to actually warm up quite a bit more, up to 53, pushing 60 by the time Wednesday rolls around, then cooling down a few showers by Thursday.
Thanks, Doug, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. In the meantime, let's take care of ourselves and each other.